Jake McAllister had spent his life under the endless skies of the western plains, his ranch sprawling across miles of rugged land. Yet his heart had always been emptier than the valleys he rode through. He was a man who knew the meaning of hard work, who knew how to survive storms, droughts, and the bitter loneliness of a frontier life. But no matter how many cattle he raised or horses he tamed, the ache for companionship gnawed at him like a relentless wind. One night, as he sat by the campfire, nursing a bottle of whiskey and staring at the flickering flames, he saw an advertisement in the old weekly paper. Lonely hearts seeking new beginnings. Mail order. Brides willing to start a life in the West? His heart raced. Could there be someone out there willing to share his life? Someone who might finally chase away the shadows from his heart? Weeks passed and letters started arriving, delicate handwriting, heartfelt words of hope and longing. Then came her letter. Clara Thompson. She wrote of a city life that had become suffocating, of dreams unfulfilled, of a desire to taste freedom and find a place where she could truly belong. Her words struck him in a way no cattle drive or sunset ever had. He responded immediately, pouring his soul into letters, promising a life together, promising safety, love, and a place by the fire where loneliness would be no more. Finally, months later, a reply arrived. She would come. She would leave her old life behind to meet him in the vast wilds of Montana. His heart soared. He began preparing the ranch, buying flowers, cleaning the old cabin, imagining the first moment he would see her step off the stagecoach. But days turned into weeks, and the stagecoach never arrived. Anxiety gnawed at him. Did something happen? Did she change her mind? He rode into town, made inquiries, and all he could find was that the trail she had been following vanished into the dense forests that lined the mountains. The town sheriff shrugged helplessly. There were dangers aplenty, bandits, wild animals, and unpredictable storms. But Jake would not give up. He could not. He mounted his horse, took his rifle, and set out into the unknown, guided only by the faint hope that she was still out there, somewhere waiting for him. The days turned harsh. He rode through thick underbrush, crossed rivers swollen from spring rains, and navigated steep cliffs. Every sound made his heart leap. Every shadow made him fear the worst, yet he refused to turn back. Finally, on the fourth night, a cry pierced the quiet of the forest. He followed it and found her, a silhouette collapsing against the rocks, pale and bleeding, her clothes torn, her face bruised. She was alive, but barely. Without hesitation, he dismounted, wrapped her in his coat, and lifted her onto his horse. "I've got you," he whispered, his voice trembling with relief. "You're safe now. You're going home with me." The stars shone down, as if bearing witness to the beginning of a bond forged. In survival and courage, through the long night he rode tirelessly, shielding her from the cold wind, murmuring words of comfort. Every mile brought them closer to the cabin he had prepared for this very moment, closer to a fire that would warm her body and a heart that would heal her soul. And in that silent promise, Clara felt something she had never known: safety, trust, and a faint but growing hope. The wild had tried to claim her, but she had not faced it alone. Jake had found her, and that was the first step in a journey neither of them would ever forget. Morning broke over the horizon, painting the sky in fiery orange and deep purple. Clara woke shivering but alive, wrapped in a blanket by the cabin's fireplace. Jake had stayed by her side all night, making sure the fire never went out and that she was safe. "You're awake," he said softly, offering a small, reassuring smile. Clara tried to speak, but her throat was dry, her body weak. She simply nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks, not just from pain, but from the overwhelming relief that someone had found her when all seemed lost. The bond between them had been forged in the harshest of circumstances, and it was unbreakable. As days turned into weeks, Jake helped her recover. He tended to her bruises, prepared meals, and told stories of his childhood, his family, and the life he had built alone. Slowly, Clara began to open up, sharing her own past, of a life confined in the city, of dreams that had seemed impossible, and of a courage she hadn't known she possessed. The more she spoke, the more Jake realized that survival had been only half the battle. The other half was trust, and that trust had begun to take root between them. Yet the wilderness was unforgiving. Bandits roamed the valleys, claiming any traveler foolish enough to cross them. Wolves prowled the forests, and storms could wash away the smallest traces of civilization in an hour. One night, as a thunderstorm raged, a shadow approached the cabin. Jake's hand went to his rifle, and Clara clutched his arm in fear. But it was only a lost traveler seeking shelter. That night, as they huddled by the fire, Clara realized that this man, the cowboy who had saved her life, was no longer just a rescuer. He was her protector, her companion, and perhaps in time, the man she could love without fear. The following weeks brought not just safety but discovery. Jake and Clara explored the lands together, riding horseback across fields of gold, sitting under stars that seemed impossibly close, and sharing laughter that neither had known in years. The wild had tested them, shaped them, and now it was giving them a new beginning. And one evening, as they watched the sun dip behind the mountains, Clara turned to Jake with tears in her eyes. "I was so scared. I thought I wouldn't survive," she whispered. "But you gave me life again." He took her hand, holding it tightly, and said, "We survived because we were meant to find each other. This is just the beginning, and we'll face everything together." Months later, the ranch was no longer a lonely outpost. Laughter echoed through the cabins, meals were shared by the fire, and love had taken root in the hearts of two souls who had faced the impossible and emerged stronger. And for Clara and Jake, the wild was no longer a threat. It was a witness to their courage, a canvas for their dreams, and the backdrop for a love story born from survival. In a world where the wild tried to claim her, love found her first, and in his arms, she finally knew she was home.